Welcome, Dan Tyre, to the Rebels with a Heart podcast. It's a pleasure to have you here in the studio.
Awesome.
It's good to see you in person.
Yes. We've never met, and we had a little bit of a rough start because, it's just the way it is in 2021, right?
Well, tell me about Boston as well. What are you doing in Boston?
That's a
layup question.
It is. I have been in Phoenix for 23 years, right? I grew up outside of New York City in a place called Ossining, New York, in Westchester County. Do you know Ossining?
I know of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's where Sing Sing Prison is. Although I was associated with the correctional facility. I went to school.
Glad to hear that.
I went to school in upstate New York, which was super fun, and then moved to Boston, then Colorado, and then moved back to Boston and lived in Boston, LA, San Francisco, New York City. So always major places. And then in 1993, I moved back to Boston because my wife was from there, and decided to raise our family in Boston. And I lived there for 15 years. Boston is a great town.
Another history-rich city.
Exactly. And you've been to Boston?
I have quite a lot, actually.
And what do you like about Boston?
The food in the North End is one thing I really enjoy.
I lived in the North End
The
twice.
architecture and the history feeling is another thing I really enjoy.
Unbelievable. You walk around and our country is, 250 years old, and you feel
it. Yeah.
Exactly, right?
I think you can walk everywhere, too. You can walk across the whole city pretty much.
That's right. As long as you avoid the drivers, which are not in the top echelon of... let's say, politeness, right? It's super fun to walk around, and I've got a big business network in Boston, and I've worked for multiple Boston-based companies, and I started a company. My second startup was in Needham, Massachusetts, which is right on 120. And so the company I work for now, Hubspot, is in Cambridge. For those of you who are not familiar with Boston, Cambridge and Boston, kind of the same city, right? Divided by the river, but pretty much the same. A little bit of different political orientation, but it's got great newspapers, great sports teams, great diversity.
Yes.
I think there's 65 or 85 colleges there, so it skews young. Great music, right? And it's just a fun place to hang out. And I enjoyed living in Boston, although it's kind of
Where were you living when you were in Boston?
I lived near Boston College.
Okay.
Right? Strategically positioned between three cities. Brighton was the working class town. Newton was like the Tony town, and Chestnut Hill was, within 50 feet, it was all touching on this road and this house that I lived in. And so depending on who I met, I was either in one of those three categories, which is super great. It was just super fun to live there. Although the downside of Boston is cold.
Yes.
Right? It's like the tundra. And
extremely cold.
I totally agree. So in 1997, a company wanted to acquire my company. I was running a consulting professional services company that was scaling very quickly, and we want to buy you. And I'm like, great. And so we negotiated the deal, and about 8 weeks before we're ready to execute the deal, they're like, oh, there's one other thing. And I'm like, what's that? They're like, we want you to move to Phoenix. And I'm like, no way. My wife is from Boston. We're going to raise our family in Boston. I love Boston. They're like, okay, we're not going to do the deal. And I'm like, Phoenix? What's in Phoenix? Old people and golf courses, two things I don't really like, right? So they're like, no, you're going to be on the board of directors. You're going to run half the company. You got to be in Phoenix. So they did something very strategic. They recruited me in December, right? And you know what Phoenix is like in December. I'm wearing exactly. There's palm trees, and no one's wearing a parka. And I'm like, wow, this is pretty cool.
Christmas outside, New Year's outside,
so
Super Bowl outside.
Okay, maybe I could stay here for a year. I've been here for 23 years, right? And although it's also kind of a funny story, I've never spent the summer here. Last year, 2020, was the first time I've ever spent the summer here.
Hottest one on record.
I know. But
our first summer.
People were like, how can you live someplace for 23 years and never spend summer there? I'm like, well, I've been on the road all the time. That's what I do. I'm a public speaker, and I talk, and I work for a Boston-based company. So it was just something that we did. And I have two kids, and when they were young, they had a dog, and they didn't want to be separated from their dog. So we drove across country multiple times. Have you ever driven across country?
When I moved to Phoenix in February of 2020,
nice.
I drove across.
With your family or
with
alone?
My dog.
Okay.
With my dog.
Oh.
My wife and the kids flew across.
Nice. How long did it take you?
I did it in three days and change. I did it really fast.
Okay.
I put in 12, 15-hour days on the road.
Okay, that's pretty good. Okay, I've done it in 2.5 days.
Nice.
Not that I'm competitive or anything, but did you know there's a race from one side of the United States to the other?
I didn't know that, but I think if I didn't have the dog, I probably could have done that.
Okay, you got to teach him how to pee into a mayonnaise jar, and then there's no stops, right?
Yeah.
And so at the time I had Oliver, and for some reason, I haven't told you this, but I'm the luckiest guy in the world. right? I am things happen to me that don't happen to normal people, right?
Okay, now I have lots of questions.
I'm sure you do. And I'm with my beautiful wife, who is the smart Tyre, right?
Okay.
I'm really a 9-year-old. She's like, she thinks things through, she plans things out, she's like very, very smart and thoughtful. And I'm starting a new job. This was probably in 2003 or 2004. And she's like, where is your job? And I'm like, it's in Phoenix. And she's like, well, when are you going to go back to Phoenix? I'm like, I don't know. I'll drive back over the weekend. She's like, Dan, it's like 45 hours of driving time. I'm like, no way. She's like, yeah, map it out. And back then we used MapQuest, and I'm like, holy cow, it's going to take me more than like an hour. Exactly. Yeah. So I was kind of screwed. So she packed me a cooler, right? And she's like, you got to get this, like, I think it was a Sienna, a Toyota Sienna, back to Phoenix from Boston in like 3 days. So I left Friday morning at 5 a.m., right? I got all the way to Indianapolis, 14-hour days, right? And like break every now and then so that the dog could get out. And then I went from Indianapolis to a little outside of Santa Fe, New Mexico, right? And then the last leg was 8 hours, flew from Santa Fe to Phoenix. And I got here about 1 o'clock in the afternoon, started my new job at 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Wow.
Isn't that a great story?
That is a great
accomplishment-oriented, knew I was going to do it. Yeah. Back then, I got like 6 or 8 CDs. Remember CDs?
Yeah.
Yeah, and plugged them in and listened to all the classic hits and drove cross country. I know. But now the competitive nature in me, I'm like, well, maybe I can do it quicker than 2.5 days. But this time we're going to drive back again and going to take 5 days.
In a Ferrari?
Not in a Ferrari.
Oh, okay.
Actually, this is kind of an interesting point about Dan Tyre. I don't own a car.
Interesting.
62-year-old guy that doesn't own a car, and I don't own a car because my car was demolished in an accident. Guy on a motorcycle drove into me at 80 miles an hour, and I was fine, and but the car was totaled. And I was looking around to buy a new car, and this guy, Corey Waxman, who is a sustainability expert, a PhD at ASU, says, first question you got to ask is, do you really need a car? And I'm like, that's a good question. I don't know. And I spend 70% of my time on the road. So I take a lot of Ubers all the time. And I love Uber. Do you take Uber?
All the time.
Uber and Lyft. And do you like it?
I love it. Yeah.
Why do you like it?
Because it's just free. I can get work done while I'm in the car is the main thing. And I'm a time aficionado, so I have every minute that I can
There
get.
you go. Yeah. I'm the same way. And now that I've been a little bit successful, I like to tip my Uber drivers $20, right? Regardless of the
destination fare.
Yeah, because they're hardworking. They're out there trying to do stuff, and I feel like it's the Dan Tyre minimum wage, right? They're trying to make a living. They probably need it more than I do. So there's 3 Uber drivers in my cul-de-sac circling around. So as soon as I push that button, they're there in 2 seconds. Second of all, I'm like a slob, right? I never clean my car, right? And they have these beautiful cars with mints and water and things like that. And so you kind of get that like reputation of doing it. And so I love Uber, right? It's just like you. I feel like a billionaire. I'm sitting in the back seat. I'm calling my friends, hey, somebody's driving me to my podcast kind of thing. And it's like super fun. They're always polite. They're always there on time. It smells good, even with
no parking concerns. Just door-to-door service.
Awesome. So I go to my wife. I'm like, I don't think I'm going to get a car. She's like, what? That's kind of weird. We live in Phoenix. I'm like, I'm just going to borrow your car. And she's like, all right, we'll see how that goes. And so I'm the only 60-year-old man who has to ask my wife, can I borrow the car? And she's like, well, where are you going? I'm like, I'm going to the grocery store. She's like, when are you going to be back? I'm like, I don't know. I'm going to the grocery store. She's like, don't get uppity. You're all get your own car. Right? So I don't own a car. And I don't expect to ever own a car ever again.
So it's fascinating. You'll appreciate this. For the last 4 years, we've only had 1 car, and that was awesome. And we have 2 young children, under 3 right now.
Okay.
Right? And I'll have a 3rd here shortly. So we actually just got a 2nd car because I felt my wife needed to have the car while I'm out and about.
I think that's right.
Because this happened in the pandemic, right? I couldn't take Ubers as much as I used to because of there was a concern around it. So that's why we kept the 2 cars.
I think that makes sense. And all the bets are off when you have 2 kids. By the way, your life is over for the next 25 years. You know that? My kids are 27 and 23, and I'm an empty nester. Okay? Anybody who thinks, oh my God, empty nesting is hard, it's freaking great. Are you kidding me? Oh, my wife and I get to do everything. We go in the pool. We watch all the Netflix things we want. We go out to dinner, although not the last year, but moving forward. We decide what we want to do, and it's amazing. Right? And as a parent, like, you got to be all in for your kids. business. And so you're like the pack mule carrying stuff, the ATM, got money all the time, and like the Uber driver taking them all around.
Yeah.
It's the greatest thing ever. Lots of like...
Yeah, we're their personal Uber driver. It's a good way of looking at it.
Oh, yeah. You're, as a dad especially, right? Yeah. You're like...
sure to cook, too.
Yeah. It's very interesting because for the first 7 years when I was at HubSpot, I was employee number 6 at HubSpot, which is a software company.
Small company, never heard of them.
Thank you very much. HubSpot's been around 15 years, just celebrated a 15-year anniversary.
Congratulations.
I celebrated my 14th year anniversary. The first year, the company only had 3 employees, and I was employee number 6, right? So the first salesperson, first sales manager, first sales director. And I've been there for 14 years because it's a mission-based company that's trying to do great things in the universe, which is like my mission statement as well. And for the first year, I was a salesperson and a team lead, so I didn't have to be in Boston all the time. But for the subsequent 6 years, I had to be there every other week. So I was on the road 100% of the time. I was either in Phoenix or I was in Boston, right? Every other week, right? And sometimes my kids would be like, "Oh, Dad, you got to go on the road again." And sometimes they'd be like, "Okay, Dad, when are you going back on the road again?" My wife did 90% of the child rearing, and it was awesome. And I felt like I had two lives, right? I had my urban life in Boston with all of the business and startup stuff, and then I had my family life here and still working at HubSpot. But it's like a little different vibe here in the Valley.
A little bit, yeah.
Although not so much anymore. I've been thrilled to see the growth of Phoenix as an entrepreneurial ecosystem.
That's why we're here, yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
And it used to be a bunch of old white guys talking about real estate, and now we've got black people, brown people, people in headscarves, tons of women-based company.
A lot more diversity.
Lots of just different types of authentic people who have chosen Phoenix as a great place to grow. And I'm super excited about that, and there's tons of people who spend a lot of time. Scott McIntyre here at Max6 is one. We're in his podcast room. We're in the Max6 Pod. And Mark Christensen, of course, and you, and all of these great companies that are scaling because we'd like to be known as the most generous ecosystem in the world, right? And there's mentors. Mark from the ACA has done a great job of creating mentorship. We've got lots of success stories now. Do you know Greg's List?
I do know Greg. We had not met in person yet. We've only met on Zoom.
If you want to do that, let me know. Okay. I've known Greg for a while. He was one of the original folks with Mario Martinez, Jonathan Cottrell, Ali Sachs, all of these great folks who were saying, no, we're a little different than Boston or San Francisco or New York. We got to change that. And Greg stepped up and he said, you know what we need? We need a list of companies that are startups so that we can understand how to nurture them. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's a good idea. And he's like, I'll build that. And I'm like, what do you mean? You'll just do a Google sheet? And he created the website, which is now in 12 cities, Greg's List, right? Unbelievable. I see him periodically because when he comes to Phoenix, he stays in my guest house, right? Okay. And he works like 12 hours a day. He's the best guest house guest ever. When he leaves parting gifts, right? It used to be he left like wine and cheese and things like that. Now he leaves like cleaning supplies, which is probably a reflection on how
the times we live in.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm not sure, but super excited about helping Phoenix companies scale, right? Because the core values are here, right? And Campus Logic and all these success stories and all these great things that are happening. It's super exciting and fun to see it happen, right? It's fun to be a little bit a part of it. It's fun to be an angel investor to help people scale their companies, mentor them, and help them grow.
Amazing. Well, I love the work that you're doing, as you know, and we had a little fun there in the studio with the alarm going off. So, as far as what's next for you, I think that's the big question. You've been building HubSpot. You've been building companies. You've been mentoring people. It's been a really interesting year. And I asked this question more from the perspective of introspection of your career and your life. Okay. Where's the next 10 years for you?
All right. That wasn't on the briefing sheet, but that's a damn good question, right? I know I was going to like you as an interviewer. A couple of things. The first 30 years of my life, I worked for 3 reasons. Number one, to have fun, right? I've always had fun in work, which is an important component of engagement. Number two, I wanted to learn stuff. I have insatiable curiosity about everything, right? Which is sometimes a problem, right? Because I'll look at a website, I'm like, that's very, very interesting. Today I was researching cohort-based learning, and I'm like, wow, that's interesting. And I would spend like a lot of time digging in to try to understand the intricacies of that, almost to a fault. And the third thing was to make money. And that served me very well for about 30 years. The HubSpot experience was different. In 2007, it was a pivotal time in the world, in business, because it was the beginning of the SaaS revolution, right? Before, right, the first 30 years of my career, I sold enterprise software, right? Which is a much different motion where you had to go belly to belly. It was a longer sales process. It was much higher value. And it was just different. With the emergence of what we call the empowered buyer, that means you can find everything on the internet now, right? HubSpot tapped in at the perfect time with a very innovation way of selling over the phone, right? So as a salesperson for HubSpot, my first boss at HubSpot was this guy, Mark Roberge. Have you ever heard of Mark?
Okay. I've seen him on video. I've never met him.
Okay. First of all, he looks a little wonky now. He's looks like a surfer guy, right? And he is flat out brilliant. In 7 years, I reported to him. We had one argument, I think, in 7 years. One argument, which is pretty good kind of thing. Now he's the entrepreneur residence at Harvard Business School and runs Stage 2 Capital, where I'm a limited partner. And he's super smart and thoughtful. Of the first 10 employees at HubSpot, I was the only one who wasn't a Sloan School graduate, who didn't go to the MBA program at MIT, right? So these were all very smart, thoughtful folks that had a way of scaling business. And everything changed right then. We had a very innovative product, inbound, at the time. And at the time, it was primarily inbound marketing. Trick out your website so that you can find, gather people who are looking for your product or service, right? Help them through the buyer journey, provide them free stuff, right? And that was a super innovative way of growing your business, right? And it tapped right into the changing demographics. But it was also treating people like human beings, right? Before 2007, people would spam you unmercifully. People would cold call you unmercifully, right? And that's just the way we did it, right? I did that for 30 years. In 2007, we said there's got to be a better way, right? And that is treating people like human beings. And then one of the core foundations of inbound is to help before you sell. You guys know this better than anyone else, right? That you were like practicing the inbound philosophy way before we started calling it inbound, right? You're just a natural helper. That's what you're all about, right? That's your aura, that's your karma, that's what you like to do. And it turns out that's a good business philosophy for generating a scaling company. Number 3, it was always solve for the customer, which is sometimes hard when you're very small, and sometimes hard when you scale larger, but essential. And then providing the right information to the right person at the right time, then dealing in processes and making sure that you're looking at the data. Those are the foundations of the inbound process. And HubSpot was able to grow very, very quickly over a short period of time because we leaned into those values, right? We've always been a mission-driven company, right? And I wrote a book in 2018 called The Inbound Organization because not everybody understood. I would explain it like I did. And you understand what I'm talking about. 100%
understand what you're talking
because you're an inbound person. But other people would be like, no, we're not a mission-driven organization. Our mission is to make money. And I'm like, okay. That's a business philosophy, but it's not a particularly good one because we're in a new era, right? And they're like, no, we're not. We've been running this business for 30 years, and this is the way. I go, how are you going to attract quality employees? How are you going to motivate quality employees, right? Millennials, Gen Z, even me, right, want to work for people that have meaning, who like really do something that makes sense. And so you have to start with a mission. You have to articulate that mission to everybody in the organization. You have to do your ideal customer profile, your personas. And of course, over the last 15 years, that's morphed a little bit because there's so much more competition today. In 2014, where we did the statistics, the average company had about 6 competitors. Okay. What do you think it is in 2021? How many competitors do you think the average company has?
40.
44. Ooh, I owe you a breakfast sandwich. That's very good, Derek. How did you know that?
Just instinct.
Okay, but that's good, right? And so when you have 44 customers, right, you have to find out where you do your best work. You have to find out your ideal customer profile and personas. You have to actually say the easiest way to grow a business is to say this is our niche.
Exactly. That's
right?
the Seth Godin model. The smallest addressable market.
Exactly. And you say, we're very, very good. And then you have to have the guts to say, okay, you're not exactly in our market. You can always be opportunistic, and lots of scaling companies will take things outside of their core market, either as a data science test or because they need the business, right? But the way you really scale is to lean in to really understand. I was working with an entrepreneur in Phoenix yesterday who grew his company to $2.2 million, right? Now he wants to grow to $6 million. And he's like, I need to start an outbound program. I'm like, why? He's like, I need to generate more revenue. I go, the way you generate revenue is find out where you do your best work. You get into the data. You segment that information. You understand where you have the biggest market share. I go, do you know your ratios? He's like, what's a ratio? I'm like, it's a reverse funnel analysis where you say, all right, I want, in this case, he wanted to do $4.4 million of incremental business. I'm like, excellent. It's good that you know that. Now you need to create a spreadsheet that says this is...
Quantifies each step.
Exactly. And quantifies by month whether you're ahead or behind.
Correct.
Right? That's one of the biggest pieces of entrepreneurial advice I give. If you go to dantyre.com, you'll see a blog article called Scaling a Successful Startup in 2021. And it says the first thing is you have to have a spreadsheet that says this is what you're going to do for new customer acquisition, incremental revenue, your cost, and your profit or your loss. Right? And it seems kind of basic. Right? I learned that in my third startup that went bankrupt because I didn't have one. Right? And if I had one, I would have known, oh my goodness, we were headed for a problem. So I give that advice to everybody. And then he's like, I need $4.4 million of incremental revenue. I'm like, how much is coming from current customers? And he's go, that's a very good question because it's usually easier and
to retain and grow to existing customers and get new ones.
But in 2021, you have to be a little bit more focused. I was just on a call there today, and I was talking about this, right? Because there's more competition, right? You got to make sure you bear hug your customers. We call it customer engagement. HubSpot has a whole team of people who
we call it customer love.
Oh, I like that. Yeah, that's good. You're a big love guy.
We are. It's one of our core values, actually.
Awesome. We got to talk about that.
Yeah, we will.
Can we save some time, Mark, so we can talk about love? Absolutely. You sent me something about how love in the workplace, and I teared up because so important, especially today, right? Never been asked about love on a podcast, and it's time, right? With more women in the workplace, with more melding of personal and professional life, right? Like having a big heart and actually helping people out
Caring
of love.
About your people.
Right?
Caring about your customer.
I know. It seems second nature to you, but like when you're doing management consultant or working with a lighthouse customer at HubSpot, and you're like, all right, how do you show that love to your client, right? HubSpot has a whole group of folks that does a customer marketing. That is, they don't care about new business. They care, but they're focused on how do we get our customers to maximize the value of the software and the relationship. Brian Halligan and Dharmesh Shah famous about your competitive advantage isn't your product, right? Your competitive advantage is your culture for your employees,
your people,
which is Katie Burke, right? Katie Burke is our chief people officer. She's been there for 10 years. Amazing woman who's led us into...
We'll have to get her on here.
Okay, you got to get her on her. She's busier than anything, but she leads a team now.
Cool.
I never had a chief people officer. I never even heard the term. And I was the kind of sales guy who was always in trouble with human resources because I wanted to do it my own way. I know, I am, right? Nothing like creepy or anything like that, but I like to do stuff in a way in which I like to do it. And human resources was about staying in your swim lane. When they announced Katie as chief people officer, and she had a strong role at helm, which is our top executives. Now everything changed. Now it was the voice of a customer. We defined our culture, which Dharmesh Shah has done. The HubSpot Culture Code, 157 slides, right? And one of the slides says that we have two products. One is our culture for our employees, and one is our product for our customer. And I'm like, that puts it in perfect clarity, right? And I asked Frank Osier, who is the CIO of HubSpot, which is more important, your employees or your customers? And how would you answer that, Derek?
Personally, I believe those employees.
Okay, why?
They communicate the experience to the customers, and if they're happy, they create happier customers, and they're more responsive, they're more invested.
You are 100% right. And it's usually you got to love your customers and you got to do it, but your employees come first for the exact reason you just did, which is an epiphany for me, and it takes it away from just the generic and really digs into, okay, now how are you going to take care of your customer or your employees? And there's a couple of ways that you do it. Number one, you're a mission-driven organization. Number two, you have a person a human being who's responsible for your people, called the Chief People Officer. And I just did a speaking engagement on how diversity impacts productivity. Isn't that a great title? At Oklahoma State University.
And I'm sure it's exponential results.
It's unbelievable when you see all the data and the facts. And I did it with this lady, Denisha Franklin, who is,
that name?
She's a person in Ohio, a mighty girl, who is like, I don't want to just be the face of HubSpot. I want to work with other HubSpotters, right, to showcase that diversity, to show and give them the stage. I'm an accomplished public speaker. Now it's time for me to share my ideas with everybody else. Exactly. So I'm like, do you want to speak in front of 400 people at Oklahoma State University? She's like, okay. And so we worked for 10 weeks, and she is awesome. And she pulled together all the information. We did it together. She blew it away. Amazing. But concentrating on that culture and really understanding how you lean into all of the ways in which we remind our people, number one, you're important. Number two, our mission is important. Number three, the only way you lose at HubSpot is if you don't ask for help. Right? We have a very arduous interview process. I get pinged 10 times a week. How do I get into HubSpot? And I got a blog article that I send everybody that says you got to really start your HubSpot career. Before you start your HubSpot career, you got to study. You got to understand the culture code. It's got to be a good fit. And, right, even if you don't make it the first time, if you really want to work for HubSpot.
Keep trying.
Exactly. Because there's hundreds of examples. People make it on their second shot because they didn't really quite understand. They need a little bit more incubation. And then when you have all these great people and they're all aligned, our chief customer officer is Yamini Rankin, a woman of color who runs HubSpot. Brian Halligan was in a snowmobile accident, so she's the default leader of HubSpot, and amazing, right? What she's done is she's aligned the businesses in a way in which as a billion-dollar company, it's very, very helpful for everybody to be on the same page. And based on your questions, we divided into like 4 areas. The first is kickoff season, which everybody does. They kick off the year and that kind of stuff. Then she has in Q2 an assess and think big season. I'm like, I like that. Yeah. Why do you like it?
I like to think big. I like to dream big.
Okay. And it gives everybody an opportunity to
be creative.
Exactly, and add their special sauce. And then we have the compass season, and that's where we create what's called exactly MSpot. We measure all the stuff that we started season kickoff, and we figure it out. For inbound organizations, we write about this all the time in the book. Have you ever heard of an MSpot?
I haven't.
Okay, so it stands for mission, right? Your mission changes maybe once every 10 years, but you have to have a mission. And your mission isn't to make more money. Your mission is...
whatever you're serving.
Exactly. Yeah. The S in MSpot is who you serve, right? Is it North America? Is it entrepreneurs? HubSpot's S is our company, our partners, our end user community. Millions of companies globally to help them grow better, right? The P in MSpot is the plays or the programs. And that's 5 to 7 things that you're going to do. Now, they're pretty high level. Right? And these are all the things that you're going to, as an individual contributor or as a team or as a division, you're going to align to these programs, right? These are the things that the senior level team has decided that are very, very important, right? Then the T's are the targets of what we're going to do, right? And how we're going to know whether we're ahead or behind, right? And everybody uses this. The O's are the omissions. Now, the omissions are very interesting because in any scaling companies, there's stuff that you want to do, especially you big thinkers, right? There's lots of stuff that you want to do.
It's the fires that you have to let burn.
And we're not going to do them in 2020. I hate to tell you this, but we're never going to get to. And by doing that, you're a little bit more focused. You're like, okay, that's a great idea, Derek, but there's no way we're going to get to it. Let's review it at the end of the season. And then the fourth scenario is goal setting season, right? And that is where you've got what you started out with. You've got your think big session, anything's going to change. Then you have your compass, how you're doing with each one. Now you're kind of setting the budgets and the scenarios for the next year, right? And that rhythm, right, works super well for small companies all the way to large companies to make sure everybody's aligned, which what we have found is one of the keys, right, to scale. Because if people aren't aligned, right, they're well-meaning, you hire good folks, but unless they really understand what the core mission is, they can relate it to their own specific organization, division, department, and their own self, it becomes hard.
So I love that framework. I'm going to bring some of that into our business. But now it transitions nicely to one of my questions, which is, okay, so that's the macro view.
Yeah.
Let's talk micro on time. The last year has been transformative in terms of how we look at the blending of work and life and how people's time is being viewed, their personal lives, their professional lives, their deliverables, their expectations.
Yeah.
How are you seeing your individual teams, or even yourself, shifting the view of time against the results and outcomes in this new blended work-life model?
Okay, that's a brilliant question, but there's two parts to that. Okay. Number one, you asked me about time.
Yeah.
And it's different for different companies. At HubSpot, we actually think in like generations, right? Brian Halligan, who's been a friend of mine for 20 years, set out with Dharmesh as co-founders to build an organization that your grandkids would be proud of, right?
That's
Stated.
Awesome.
Hey, this was in year one. I'm like, what does that mean? He's like, we want to do the right thing. We want to lead.
Phenomenal.
In 2007, no one talked about it in 2007. We want to be socially responsible. We want to build a great culture. And I sat around the table with these guys, and I'm like, okay, this is a little weird. But they would decide whether we were going to just help our customers or help everyone, right? And many of the early programs within HubSpot were driven by the fact that we just wanted to help, right? We have this thing called Hubspot Academy. Have you ever heard of Hubspot Academy?
I have.
Okay, 64 certifications, 480 lessons. It's run by my boss, Courtney Sembler, right? She runs Hubspot Academy, and she's amazing, empathetic and thoughtful, and we have this great relationship. And at the very early stage, we're like, we don't care if we make any money. We want to make sure that we're teaching you the skills. We're preparing you. Number one, it's the right thing to do. Number two, like people need this training. Number three, it turns out it's a great way of generating potential interest. Number four,
builds customer loyalty.
Yeah, they're like, oh my goodness, you trained me all about inbound marketing. Of course, I'm going to consider you when I'm doing an inbound marketing program. Same thing with inbound sales. Same thing with inbound service. And that has scaled up to a community and a tribe of people who like bleed orange. That's what we call it, right? And so Brian and Dharmesh are also famous for saying someone is sitting in the shade because someone planted a tree a long time ago. Have you ever heard that quote?
I have.
Who do you know who did it?
I don't know who said it.
It's Warren Buffett.
Okay.
Right? And that means you have to make investments early into the growth of the business, right? So for HubSpot, right, and having been there for 14 years, I never worked for a company for 14 years, but every day I got to pinch myself, right? Because the mission is to...
You're seeing it come to life, literally.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
First of all, I don't think I could get into HubSpot now. It's too hard, right? Back then, they're like, okay, you're a good sales guy, boom, let's go. Right now, the level of folks, their commitment level, how digitally first they are, how smart they are, the problem solving, working together, the diversity inclusion, all of it is amazing, right? And part of so much fun. As like resident old guy, I say that because we do our diversity statistics. Right, you know, HubSpot publishes diversity statistics every year. That's Katie Burke. In 2000, I think it was 15, she's like, we're not that good on diversity, so the way we're going to solve this is going to be totally transparent. I'm like, what does that mean? Because she goes, even though we're not good, we're going to publish our diversity statistics and say we're going to improve.
It's accountability.
Exactly, right? And that's kind of ballsy, right? Where you're going to say, even though we're not very good at this, we're going to put a stake in the ground. So she did, right? And then over the last 4 years, right, the diversity statistics for gender, age, ethnic diversity, all of those have slowly increased. And at least we hold ourselves accountable internally and externally. It's publicly available, right? We have 3 women on our board of directors. We have a person of color on our board of directors. We track how many women are in executive positions, in director positions, right? And you were talking about the change in 2020, right? Unfortunately, a lot of women had to leave the workforce.
This was a topic that came up on another conversation we had with, if you heard of Mita Malik? Ricarda, we talked about this exact topic, and she's very passionate about this.
Me too, because women are better at life than men, right? And now, I've said that multiple times. It's a little bit controversial.
My wife is going to love you for that.
I know, but it's true, right? I'm a perfect example of that. They think differently. You give $10 to a guy, they go out and buy beer. You give $10 to a woman, they buy diapers for the whole village. village, right? And it's consistent. There's some gender differences, but women in the workforce is the greatest boon to productivity, to thoughtfulness, to empathy, right? Women run HubSpot. It's amazing. Not even Yamini, but Katie Burke and Allison Slater, all of these, Kim Walsh, right? Amazing, exciting, awesome.
Huge culture adders.
Because
culture multipliers.
Courtney's a perfect example. She goes, Dan, you look a little burnt out. I'm like, I'm not. And my wife is like, listen to Courtney, right? And she's like actually concerned about how I feel as a person, right? I'm not like, that's amazing. She made me make a list. This is Courtney's greatest hit. She's like, okay, make a list of all the stuff you're not going to do. Tyre, you do everything, which is true. Right? And it's a psychological flaw. On my last 5 employee reviews, all my managers have said, no, you take on too much. Stop that, which is bad for me, bad for the commitments that I make. She's like, we're going to have a list of all the things you're not going to do. I'm like, that's brilliant, right? And it's a good thing if you got somebody who's got that personality characteristics. And then like working through with an empathetic approach, right? I was coaching a manager who's just moving into a new manager role on Monday. And he's like, all right, give me a few tips if I'm taking over a team. And my background has been, I was turnaround expert for a while. Yeah, and I'm a pretty good team builder. So the first thing is I'm a big believer in trust, right? And in any relationship, you have to have trust, right? Have you ever been in a good relationship that didn't have trust?
Absolutely not.
Because it doesn't exist, right? Personal and professional. So being Dan Tyre, I'm a little frontal about trust. So if I was sitting with you and we were going to be working together, I'd be like, all right, Derek, we have to build a trusting relationship. And what would you say?
Well, let's get to know each other.
Okay. And I'm like, okay, how do we build trust? And what would you say?
We have to spend some time and understand how we value trust and what's important. How do we measure trust? What do we deem as a priority to create trust?
Awesome. So your first assignment in our relationship is I want you to think about how we do that and how we're going to build trust. Now, if I lose your trust, I'll know because I'll see it in your shoulders.
Yeah.
I'll see it in your eyebrows. And it's happened a handful of times in my life. I will know. If I lose your trust, you say, Dan, you've lost my trust. Say it.
Dan, you've lost my trust.
Okay, now you said it once. The next time it will be easier, right? And I want to make sure that they understand this is a foundation, right, of the way in which we're going to work together, right? Because I want you to know.
I'm being direct about it.
That's the only way I roll, right? I am right in your face. I want to know because it's quicker. And over Zoom, I might not be able to see you. For 5 years at HubSpot, I was a remote manager, right, of a team in Boston, right? And it was great in the technical kind of things, but if somebody was pissed off, I wouldn't know.
They wouldn't say it until they were leaving.
So I got the people next to him. I'm like, Johnny Dukes, if Kimberly is pissed off, will you just slack me, right? And it did. So I had the support system where they're like, Morgan is like rolling his eyes, right? He's not. And then I call up and like, Morgan, I don't think we're on the same page. And he'd be like, oh my goodness, how do you know that? And I'm like, it doesn't matter. Like, let's just get back on. That trust thing is very, very important, right? And just like you said, there's a variety of different ways. It's most people
define it different. They can define it differently.
I know.
It's very subjective.
I know. And we're 21st century managers, so we want to understand, how do you build trust? The second thing is I'm like, okay, Derek, how do you want me to manage you? And has anybody ever asked that?
Never, actually, in my entire career.
Okay, so I'm a chameleon. I'm going to be, because I got a little ego, I'm going to say, Derek, I'm going to be the best manager you ever had because you're going to tell me how to manage it. And they're like, they're 22 years old. They're like, okay, I've never had a manager. I'm like, all right, well, think back to when you were in high school or whatever. What was the characteristics of the people you liked the most? Or when you were like a teacher or something like that.
Most inspired.
What were the things that really ticked you off? And then just do some research. I want you to be thoughtful about understanding what kind of manager you want me to be, right? Do you want me to scream at you? And they're usually like, no, not really. Some people, like the hockey players, they're like, yeah, give me some Bill Belichick kind of stuff. Some people are like, no, what I'd really like is check-ins. I'd like you to be a nurturing kind of manager. I'd like you to educate. I'd like you to coach. And I'm like, all right, I'm writing all this down. And I want to make sure that we get off to a good start. So I make the subordinates do all the work. I'm like, start a document. 2 things. Number 1, put up at the top what kind of manager you want me to be. And then every time we meet, right, we're going to do
against that.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm going to ask you, every time we meet, I'm going to ask you, how are you doing? That's my first question. And I'll know if you're not doing good. If you're a little tense, because I don't really listen to what they say.
Watch them.
I listen to their shoulders. Your shoulders don't lie, right? And I can tell if you're stressed. I can tell if you're not all there, right? And then over time, 30, 60, 90 days, we'll meet at least once a week, unless you want to meet once every 2 weeks, and as long as you're 110% of whatever goals that we have to set. Yeah. If you fall below 110%, then we got to meet a little bit
more frequently.
Exactly. Just because I don't want you to get anxiety ridden. I want to make sure that I understand your rhythms. I want to understand that we work together. And in this, I'm doing a lesson now on remote and how it bridges to hybrid, right? Because everybody was remote, but now you have the ability to get back
People
together.
Have choices.
Exactly. And so what you're going to see is in remote, it's a little bit more transactional. It's a little bit more communication has to be instantaneous, right? Because I can't walk by your desk and say, Derek, how you doing? Right? Mark, how you doing? Right? I got to rely on either other people to tip me off, or I got to just do a quick check-in. Let's just jump on the phone for 5 minutes. And so I think what you're going to see now is you're going to see more event-driven, in-person kind of stuff, right? More people going back, not 5 days a week, although some industries are doing that. Although I don't think that's the right thing to do, right? Me personally.
We both agree on that.
Okay. As an extension of your employees have to be treated like adults.
With respect and dignity. Right. They can make their own choices.
I had a guy, I heard yesterday, he's going, there's rumors that people have 2 jobs. And I'm like, excuse me? They're remote workers, so they sign up for 2 jobs. I'm like, no one's doing that. They go, no. I'm like, there's no one who's working 2 jobs because, like, that just doesn't make any sense. Like, you can't trust these people. You can trust them, right? Or you got to get new people, right? If you can't trust somebody to work from home, right, then they're probably not the right fit for your organization, right? And it's all based on results these days, right? You sent a great question about activities and work hours and stuff like that. That's the dopiest thing ever. It just doesn't fit in 2021, right? We work all the time, right?
And we're always connected, 7 days a week.
Yeah. And what difference does it make? Do I care about how many dials that you make, right? And when I was starting, you had to make like 50
a day.
Exactly, right? If you were cold calling, which if anybody on this podcast is cold calling, please don't do it, right? Just Google warm calling. It's completely different. I'm happy to explain to you. DTyre@hubspot.com how to do it. Go to Hubspot Academy, inbound sales, completely different and much, much better for you, much better for the prospect, all those kind of things. But it's all about results. Right? And what you want to do is you want to define the results of the role, right? If you're hiring college graduates or people who are good problem solvers, that's one of the main
Most
attributes.
Important.
Exactly, right? And most people don't want somebody to tell them what to do. What they want is somebody who help them figure it out, take away the barriers, help and work with them so that they can grow better as an individual, as a leader, as a team lead, and on their company.
So, okay, this is a question that was not on my list, but I have to ask it now. We agree that this is the way of business going forward.
Yes.
Doing the right thing, doing good business, doing business that is good for the world, for communities is the way to do it. But how do we shift? I mean, I still think we're actually in a minority, ultimately, of companies that are and leaders that are leading and managing this way. What's the process by which more companies and more individuals and more people are brought down this path?
Very good. So first of all, they got to listen to your podcast, and there's more like synthesis that we've got to do about why this is important. Number 2, you've got to win the hearts and minds of the smartest people in the workforce, right? And Gen Z and millennials and now returners would all prefer to work for a mission-driven company, right? The companies that get the best employees are going to win, right? Would you agree with that?
We completely agree.
And I went through a scenario where somebody at HubSpot had been there for 8 years, said, my time is up, I'm going to leave, and went and started interviewing. She came back and she said, I went to my first interview. And I said, what is your mission? Because I couldn't find it on the website. And the guy says, we're not that kind of company. We don't have a mission. She's like, what do you mean you don't have a mission? How do you get pumped to go to work every day if you don't have a mission? Right? And he's like, no, that's
not how we operate.
Exactly, right? She'll never work for that company, right? She'll never consider probably that entire industry. So we're in the state of change where it will become more commonplace, right? You're now seeing more people and companies who are socially responsible.
Yes.
HubSpot is very socially responsible, which always makes me cry. We stand for Black Lives Matter. Yeah. Everybody at HubSpot has to take anti-racist training, right? It is unbelievable. 45 minutes of all of the systemic racism stuff that I participate participated in, right? Through my entire career. And I hired the first 300 salespeople at HubSpot, and I didn't lean into diversity and inclusion, and it was my bad, right?
That's a huge, just for you to even acknowledge that is a pretty big deal.
Okay, I have a mentor program that I run for people in HubSpot and outside of HubSpot, and there's a lot of women and people of color in there. Earlier in 2019, this beautiful young Hispanic salesperson came to me and said, HubSpot doesn't really lean into diversity. Right. And I did the typical old white guy. I go, that's not true. We do all this rather than shutting my mouth and listening, asking, like, tell me a little bit more about why do you perceive that kind of stuff? I tried to refute her, right? Which when I'm like going through that race, I'm immediately thinking of me, right? And I'm like, oh my goodness, right? That is horrible. I fell into that trap. I won't fall in that trap again, right? Now I understand the importance of listening, honoring somebody's opinion, especially a diverse opinion, understanding what it's all like. And it's all because I was required to go through that training. All managers are required to go through that training. As they branch off outside of HubSpot, the first thing they'll do is like, where's your anti-racism training, right? Where's your diversity statistics? Where are your podcasts to teach people how to be more empathetic? How do you promote women in the workforce? Where are your women on the board of directors? And it'll take generations, but we will get there.
But all those alumni are going to go to other new companies, and they're going to bring that.
Happens all the time.
Exactly.
Happens all the time. I was just working with my buddy Brandon Nathaniel Moses Davis, which you got to admit, that's a $10
cool name,
right? I know. He was at HubSpot as one of the first black sales employees like 6 years ago. And it was hard, right? Because at the time we had diversity and inclusion, but we didn't have belonging. In other words, we could recruit people of color, but we really didn't understand how to make them feel welcome.
Another acronym for love, or in my opinion, belonging, right?
100%.
That's what it says.
100%. Right? Love is just this beautiful thing where people can be their authentic selves, where you can treat them with a foundation of kindness.
And have real conversations as a result of building that foundation, that trust, that respect, right?
That's it. That's it. That's what it is to me in a business context. And that is an extension of life, right? My mission statement is to do the most good for the universe, which is on my website, right? That's what I do. That's what drives. I say about the three things in the first 30 years is learn stuff, have fun, and make
now
money.
It's the most good in the universe.
Because I got everything else, right? Now I got to lean into relationships, and what gets me jazzed up is helping more people. I love driving down here and doing this podcast, right? Because if I can touch one other person who's running a company, like, you know what? I'm not quite there yet, right? Send me an email, dtyre@hubspot.com, dantyre@gmail.com, go to dantyre.com. All of these like resources, right? Like LifeGuides to help you, right? Because this is essential, right? And it's going to be lots of stops and starts. There's going to be lots of people who are going to be they're the blamers, the judgers, the cancelers, right? They're all over because that's easy. Anybody can make a value judgment and try to tear it down, right? But that's the old generation. And the good news is they're going to die pretty soon. And the guys like you and I are going to, and the women are going to rise up. And we know how we want to run the world. We know how we want to run our companies, right? And the companies with the smartest, most empathetic folks are always going to win. Because there's 44 competitors now. Technology's got to the point where every company's a technology company, right? And your differentiation, this is another Dharmesh and Brian, your differentiation is your empathy and your customer experience. And if you lead with like just selling stuff, transactional, which I'm going to say 90% of companies out there are like, no, I just want to sell you something. HubSpot has never been like that. We're like, okay, we want to give you all this free stuff. And in the early days, people were like skeptical. They're like, why are you doing this? I'm like, because it's the right thing to do. That's just the inbound philosophy. They're like, you're going to give me free stuff. Now all HubSpot software starts at free. It all starts at free, right? We're like, no. I have people come up to me in airports, which is always hilarious because everybody thinks that I'm Dharmesh or Brian. I didn't start HubSpot. I was just lucky enough to be there at the beginning. And they like, can I take a selfie with you? Can we take a video? And I'm like, yeah, no, you're so happy. And then they're like, I got a confession. I don't pay for HubSpot. I'm like, we love that. I go, do you ever refer HubSpot? She goes, all the time. Do you like what we're doing? They go, all the time. I go, that's why HubSpot's making this big dent in the universe, right? We don't care if you give it. We got plenty of money. We got $1 billion on our balance sheet. Turns out that helping people, turns out that trust, turns out that love, right? We got a heart on our culture code. That's a winning strategy for a company that could be worth billions of dollars, right? The smart entrepreneurs out there, they're going to be, wait a second, let's Like, repeat that, right? If HubSpot can grow, and there's plenty of other examples, right? Great examples of women-led companies.
Yeah.
Zenivate is a portfolio company that invested in ShareShare, an unbelievable company that invested. Go Gipper Media, another. All of those are leading with this motion where they're like, no, we're going to help first, right? And if you're in our ideal customer profile, we can add value, then you can buy our product, right? And we're still in the early stages, but we're going to win because if you have an option between buying from somebody who wants to sell you something or buying somebody that wants to help you, which would you choose?
Obviously the latter.
Yes.
And that's who we ultimately are serving. I mean, that's the whole point of LifeGuides, literally.
I know. That's why you'll be successful. If you can define it well enough, right? If you can get the economic model to work for. But that kind of motion always wins. And we have a lot of competition, and when you have availability of an empowered buyer, now all of a sudden it's a much different scenario than it was in the early 2000s. It's a natural extension, and so you're going to see more socially responsible companies.
100%. Now, we're a public benefit corp.
Awesome. B Corporation, and you never heard of that before 2015. Now you hear it a lot, right? Now you hear successful companies that are scaling like that, and that's the fun of it.
We were some of the people we talked to at the time said, you shouldn't do that because investors won't want to invest in you. So, well, we don't want to invest with them.
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm on the board of directors of a company in Uganda providing a safe, effective transportation for women. Right. I don't know if you've ever been to Uganda.
I have not.
Transportation is very, very difficult. People either walk or take scooters, or they get into these beat up old perv vans that are very hard to get. So this technical entrepreneur, Andrew Carl, said, no, I'm going to change that for a good economic foundation. I'm going to provide safe, clean transportation, primarily for women. Turns out 75% of our customers are women. You get an app, you schedule your ride, it leaves at the right time, and amazing. And those are the kind of people I want to help. Those are the people that I want to help with my mentorship, with my vision, with my strategy, with my money. And it'll take a couple of generations, but it's going to be super fun, right? Because we got to reinvent the way business is done, right? And there's enough good people out there that have had that experience that we're going to win. And there's going to be a lot of potholes along the road and twists and turns. But if it was easy, we'd have already done it. And we're going to get there. I
agree. Well, I'm excited to collaborate with you for the next few decades.
Awesome.
Whatever form this looks like. It's going to be great.
Go to dantyre.com. Dan Tyre, anything that I could do to help. I limited a little bit of my bandwidth because I'm full-time at HubSpot.
Sure.
But I got a lot of external kind of side projects, and I love helping individuals and leaders and companies and Arizona companies scale.
Yeah.
And I'm super happy to help you and anybody who needs it.
Thank you. Well, I'm going to close with the last question that you said we got to come back to it. I asked you about the context of love and business. You said you wanted to talk about that. Tell me your thoughts on that question.
So it's time, right? No. Doing the most good for the universe means I want people to lead with their heart, right? And that means you have to define it, right? You have to understand your value in that equation. And everybody can do everything, right? I get these people right out of college going, but Tyre, you've got a successful experience in that stuff. What do I want to do? And it could be just a smile of somebody. Everybody can assist somebody who needs a little help, right? And everybody that thinks that they're so thankful that I help them. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. The most fun I have at this stage. Who doesn't want to help people, right?
It does feel good. But
it feels amazing, right? When somebody says, all right, I want to buy you a breakfast sandwich, or I want to buy you a t-shirt. I'm like, no, I don't need that. What I really need is you to help somebody else, right? Because this is forward. Exactly.
That's what LifeGuides is, literally. It's the pure model of helping someone else on the path.
Awesome, right? That's why I'm here. It's unbelievable. I wish you the best of the luck, and anything that we can do, any role that I can play, just let me know, and we'll figure it out.
Awesome. Everyone, this has been Dan Tyre on the Rebels of the Heart. It's been amazing talking with you. Can't wait to have more conversations in the future. And as always, tune in with us for the next show, and we will see you all very soon. Wishing you all the best. Thank you.
LifeGuides. Navigating life challenges together.